Arav was just 14, a quiet boy with a sharp mind and a soft voice. The kind of kid teachers liked but the class barely noticed. Every morning, he walked to Sunrise Public School with his bag pulled tightly on his shoulders, his eyes always glued to the ground. He wasn't scared of school. He was scared of someone in it. For the last few months, school had become a battlefield for him, a place where he fought a silent war nobody else could see. And his enemy wasn't a monster, not a teacher, not even exams. It was a boy named Rowan. Rowan wasn't the typical loud, obvious bully. No, he was smarter, quieter, more dangerous. A smirk here, a whisper there, tiny insults under the breath when teachers weren't looking, and constant mocking of Arav's soft voice and simple clothes. It wasn't dramatic enough for anyone else to notice, but for Arav, it was slowly crushing his confidence. Every day in math class, Rowan flicked pieces of paper at him. During lunch, he, accidentally, pushed him or made jokes about him, making the others laugh. Even when Arav tried to focus, Rowan's voice echoed in his head. Why do you talk like a baby? Can't you ever speak loudly? You're so weird. Arav never fought back. He wasn't built for fighting. He was built for dreams. Dreams that felt too fragile to take hits. One day, the pressure finally broke him. It was a Monday morning. The sky was dull, and Arav's heart felt heavier than usual. In English class, the teacher asked him to read aloud a paragraph. Arav stood up, took a breath, and opened his mouth. But no sound came. Rowan smirked from the second row. See, he can't even speak. The class giggled, and something inside Arav snapped like a dry twig. He felt his face burn. His eyes blurred. His throat tightened. He put the book down, muttered a soft, "Sorry, Mom," and ran straight out of the classroom. He hid behind the staircase, hands shaking. Why was this happening? Why couldn't he stand up for himself? Why did he always feel powerless? A teacher found him minutes later, still trembling. "Arav, what happened?" she asked, but he couldn't answer. He just shook his head, wiped his tears, and stayed silent. That day, he went home early. His mother noticed his red eyes, but he simply said, "I'm tired." But she wasn't convinced. She sat next to him and waited. And that silence, the kind only mothers understand, made Arav's heart open. He told her everything. The small comments, the quiet bullying, the embarrassment, his fear of speaking, his fear of becoming a joke. His mother didn't cry. She didn't overreact. She didn't say the usual lines like, "Ignore him," or "He'll stop." She just placed a hand on his head and said, "Arav, courage isn't loud. Sometimes it's quiet. Sometimes it's just choosing not to run away again." Those words stayed in his mind all night. The next morning, Arav didn't want to go to school, but he remembered his mother's face, calm, strong, believing in him more than he believed in himself. Something inside him shifted. He made a small decision. Today, I won't hide. Not anymore. At school, Rowan was waiting, as usual, leaning against the classroom door with that smug expression. When Arav walked by, Rowan whispered, "Try not to cry today, okay?" Normally, Arav would have lowered his eyes. But this time, he didn't. He looked straight at Rowan and said, firmly but calmly, "I'm not scared of you anymore." It wasn't loud, it wasn't dramatic, but it was enough. Rowan blinked. He wasn't expecting that. "You think you're tough now?" Rowan laughed, but his voice shook slightly. "I'm not tough," Arav replied. "I'm just done." The simplicity of that line hit harder than shouting ever could. Rowan just stared, confused, before walking away. But Arav's battle wasn't finished. At lunch, Rowan approached him again. For a moment, Arav felt his stomach twist. But before Rowan could say anything, a voice interrupted. "Leave him alone, Rowan." It was Neha, the class topper and one of the most respected students. She had noticed what was happening, and she wasn't the only one. A couple of other students nodded silently, standing near Arav. Bullies lose power the moment people stop being silent around them. And that day, Rowan realized he wasn't as powerful as he thought. Arav didn't need to fight. He only needed to show that he wouldn't run away anymore. The next few weeks were different. Rowan kept his distance. Arif still felt nervous sometimes, but every time he felt fear rise, he reminded himself, courage is choosing to stop hiding. Slowly, he began raising his hand in class again, reading paragraphs again, speaking up again, not loudly, not perfectly, but bravely. One day, their English teacher asked the class to describe a personal challenge they had overcome. Arif stood up, his legs shook a little. His voice was soft, but he spoke. I used to be scared of speaking, he said, and I let someone make me feel small. But now, I'm learning not to hide. The class listened, really listened, and for the first time, Arif felt seen, not as the quiet boy, not as the bullied kid, but as someone stronger than his fears. When he finished, the class clapped. Not because he was loud, not because he was perfect, but because he was brave. After class, Rowan approached him quietly. His expression wasn't arrogant anymore. It was guilty. Hey, I'm sorry, he muttered. I didn't know it hurt that much. Arif didn't say, it's okay. He just nodded, a quiet acceptance. Not forgiveness, not friendship, just closure. Because the story wasn't about changing Rowan. It was about changing himself. Weeks later, Arif found himself standing in front of the school assembly, receiving an award for outstanding personal growth. He held the certificate with pride. His hands weren't shaking anymore. His mother watched from the crowd, smiling. Arif had grown bigger than his fear, taller than his silence. The boy who used to hide behind the staircase was now standing under the bright morning sun, not afraid of being seen. And he realized something powerful. Bravery isn't winning fights. Bravery is refusing to disappear.